Today I have author Nedra Maurine White. She is the author of Gracie's Journey Out of Darkness. Thank you so much for coming, Nedra.
Thank you for having me.
In this book, she talks about her story of family separation when she was very young, her traumatic experiences in the adoptive home,
yes,
and in the foster care system,
yes,
and then your whole journey to locate your family.
Right.
Did they ever give you a reason why they took
yes,
you all from your mother?
Because
what was their reason?
my mother was mentally ill.
Okay.
From the adoption records, from the Department of Health, they just said she wasn't capable of taking care of us. And back in the 50s, you don't talk about mental illness. That was very, very, very taboo.
First thing that touched my heart was the incident that happened with the older boy.
Yes.
And
he had been adopted.
He had been adopted also?
Child. Yes. And he just took advantage of the situation. Being a child, I just was terrified,
right,
what he may do or whatever. Because child molesters and abusers, they can be very, very, very intimidating.
Right. Did he threaten you with
yes,
bodily harm? He did?
Yes. Well, he threatened me that I better not ever, 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 ever tell.
Right.
And me being a kid, I was just scared to death.
Exactly. Exactly.
It took me years and years and years and years to even mention it to someone else that had happened, because I didn't want anybody to know, and I wanted to keep it a secret.
Right. Right.
But it was part of my survival, where my survival mode had to kick in.
Exactly. And with that, I mean, you really would have to go into survival mode dealing with that.
Yes.
And then with that issue comes your brothers being adopted from, with someone who only wanted boys.
They only wanted the boys.
And, how did that make you feel as a young girl? And these were your brothers, your only connection to family, and now here they are being taken away from you.
At the time, I was totally traumatized. I didn't know that's what it was called, but I was totally traumatized because I couldn't fathom as a child, and me being with my brothers, that someone would take them and not take me, because we had a bond. And it was very, very, very upsetting. And
I know and today when you look at adoption, and they usually, if it's a family, they do push that, to adopt all the children. But I guess we're talking about the 50s, so they really did not push that in the adoption.
No, in the process. 50s, we were just a number.
Right.
We weren't even considered, I would say, as children that needed to be loved and nourished. We were just a number to the system. Right. That's all we were. So me being separated from them, it didn't mean anything to them at all. No, it didn't.
And then after your brothers leave, then is when we get into the real crazy. Not that wasn't traumatic and crazy.
Oh, it was.
But then you get with this adoptive mother. Inside that house, you went through hell.
Yes.
So what was the first episode that you can remember?
The first episode that I can remember is her making me and my adopted sister get naked in the kitchen, and she threw eggs at us. We stood there in the kitchen floor naked, and she just used us for target practice. Like say, I couldn't make any sense of any of it, because I just did not comprehend. Right. Why did this happen to me? Right. Or why did I have to come here? Out of all the people that could have adopted me, and she was the one.
Did she want a child? Did she want a daughter? How did she come?
Yes, she did. She, for her own personal needs, because as you see, the book says Gracie's Journey Out of Darkness. She changed my name to Nedra. She told me because she needed it.
And you stayed with this woman until you were what, 12? So Nedra was the final straw where you, because I know you eventually you were like, I can't do this.
Well, everything had been building and building and building, and by me being a child, she always sent me. Detroit is a huge city.
Yeah, I've never been to Detroit.
Oh, it's huge. Trust me, it's not big as, I don't think it's big as Chicago or New York, but it's big.
Right.
And a child, you know, it had to be humongous.
Exactly.
But I would, she would send me downtown to pay her monthly bills, her charge cards and things, which I didn't know then. She shouldn't have been, you know, sending me that, but I did it.
Right.
So that's how I learned to catch the bus.
I see.
I wasn't afraid to catch the bus. It gave me quiet time.
Right.
You know, it gave me a time that I could be peaceful
and
where
free from that
from the madness.
That was going on.
So the straw that broke, as they say, broke the camel's back is when I took the letters to the mailbox 2 blocks away that day, and we counted the letters. We sat at the table, we counted them together, and she put a rubber band around them. And as terrified as I was, there was no way I was going to lose one of those letters.
Exactly.
And I took the mailbox, took the letters to the mailbox, dropped them in, came back home, and she's standing there with a letter and said, I dropped it on the way. That I had dropped the letter and somebody had brought her the letter. And I was like,
at that point, you knew, like, no,
I can't do this no more.
Right.
Which I knew when she showed me that letter, she was going to make me go back to that mailbox. I knew it.
Right.
And that was my chance.
You eventually ended up with the police, or they found you?
Yes, because a thing in Detroit, you're always supposed to have ID. Always.
Okay.
And if you're a child,
right,
you don't have no ID, so therefore you have no business in the streets, walking the streets.
Right.
So that's, you know, what was the red flag when they pulled me over. I didn't have any ID.
And so they took you to the station, and I'm assuming they called her.
Well, I had to give them her information, and I let them know then I'm not going back.
Right.
You can call her, she can verify everything that I've told you, but I'm not going back.
That was it.
And I had never talked back to an elderly person or a grown person before, but I just told them.
Something was just...
I don't care what you do. I don't care. I didn't care what they was going to do to me.
Right.
I would go back, and I never went back.
And you never went back? I know you say that you did never want to mention any names or anything like that. Why did you make that decision? Why didn't you?
Well, I made the decision because, for one, my adopted mother has deceased, and he has deceased. They have passed away. When something that horrendous, when a person is not there to say, well, she's lying or she's not telling the truth or whatever, it's not fair to, you know, put their name out there. I just don't think it's fair.
Have you gotten any flack from writing this book? Have people come up to you? Have they contacted you? And you know, none of that.
No.
None of that.
No. Simply because over the years, the people that I have known personally, they know I wasn't lying.
Right.
You know, they knew that. Like I say, the people that I've written about, I've had a couple of family members. They don't want no parts of it. Right. Instead of taking that chance that they may pick up this book and read something they don't want to hear, they have just shut it down. It's okay, you know. They don't need to know whatever.
That's just really, like we were talking. You know, that's what's wrong with families sometimes. You know. Oh my goodness, it's just, this subject is just so painful for me because I can only imagine some child right now who's going through this and not feeling like they can tell anybody about what's going on, you know, and the pain that they must be going through.
That's one of the messages I wanted to get across in the front of the book, as far as anybody that picked up my book and read it. A lot of times there are signs of children when they're being abused. There's different signs. One of the signs for me that people didn't know, I was a total nervous wreck. So as a child, I did this all the time.
Really?
I licked my lips constantly. I had a black ring all the way around my mouth.
Wow.
But I also noticed there was one other little girl that went to school with me. She did the same exact thing, but it didn't click until I got older.
Right. You were able to look back and see. And
but that was a sign of nervousness. Most people don't pick up on those little signs like that, but that was a bell ringer right there. Why? You know, I couldn't sit still. I was always, and I was just constantly licking my lips. Just constantly. Because I was a nervous, total wreck. And the main thing too is, just like I've taught my sons and my daughters to teach their children to always try to be comfortable coming to you as a parent. No matter. I taught my kids, I didn't care no matter how bad they thought it was, that they could always come to me. Because the worst fate would be for me to kill them. And I would never do that because I'm their mother and I love them. So you have to teach your children not to, you know, be afraid to come to their parents. And if you're afraid to go to your parents, you go to somebody else. At least tell someone. It did give me per se some kind of therapy to just let it, and it's there, it's in black and white, it's something that I'm going to live with for the rest of my life. Also my siblings are going to have to live with for the rest of their lives. But that's why I gave them a place in the book to express, you know, some of the feelings that they felt about us being separated and taken from our parents. And it does have an effect on all of us. One of the things that I'm grateful for moving here to Tallahassee to be with my sister is that my sister's daughter's husband introduced me to Tan. So that was one of the most beautiful things that has happened to me so far moving to Tallahassee.
Tan is
Tallahassee Authors Network. Besides being able to bond with my sister and spend time with her, that's one of the most wonderful things that have happened to me. And it's happened at a time where I hadn't quite finished publishing, you know, getting my book in paperback. And he it seemed like right after it was done, he says, well, there's a book club in Tallahassee that you should check it out. And I checked it out, and it's been truly you know, there are no coincidences, you know. There are no coincidences. Everything is for a reason. Everything is for a reason. If you're going through something and you read this book, you read Nedra's story, you will really take a second look at your life and appreciate what God has given you. God has the ability, the ultimate power to bring a child from this until this amazing woman that is sitting here today, that is published out of the darkness. This published book, Gracie's Journey Out of Darkness. Nedra, is there any final words you want to say to our Flye Books audience today? Well, I just want to say thank you, Tanya, for having me here and giving me the opportunity to just talk about my book. I haven't had this opportunity before, except for with family members, and I'm glad to be here. And my last word for you is to totally believe in God. All right. Because He's going to be there for you. That's right. That's right. Well, thank you so much for joining me and Nedra today, and peace to you. Right. All right, Nedra.